A very pleasant good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are located and whatever your time zone is. Welcome to your hour, and this is Rita Gadi. And this afternoon, I'm very pleased and very honored to have with me my former partner in a radio program, and at last we discovered each other all over again. So I'd like to welcome one of the finest minds this side of the planet. I won't introduce anymore all the adjectives that go with this name. Homobono, Adaza, hello, welcome.
Hello, Rita. I don't like to say superlatives also for you because you might decide to name us as the members and not the chairman and the vice chairman of the Mutual Admiration Club.
But of course, there is so much that is with our backpack. You were mentioning earlier that we're not just writers, but what's important, Bono, is we are thinkers. And I think that is what is most important. You know, the title of our program for this afternoon is, What Do We Need? But before we get into the political scene, right now we are here in this ECQ in the National Capital Region. That means it's worse than the lockdown. Actually, it's even stricter than the lockdown, although they don't want to call it a lockdown. They have all sorts of names for it. Some kind of a circuit breaker, etc., and all of this. But, you know, Bono, I came across an Indian doctor who said something like this, you know, no nation in the world can control the COVID virus by increasing hospital beds, oxygen tanks, ventilators, ICU wards. What is important, he said, is just the behavior of people. Because the long and lasting important thing and the quickest solution, he said, is wear your mask, social distancing, and monitoring yourself on the high level of hygiene. So that's all. He said something like, you don't create more hospitals just to avoid traffic accidents or motorcycle accidents, you know. So it's the same manner. Anyway, so that's how it is, Bono. This is a lockdown that is now imposed on several areas. But over the past 1 year and a half, we've had so many of these different kinds of quarantines. The word quarantine has been there all along. You have adjectives, modified, enhanced, general, etc. But the quarantine is there. Quarantine means you have to be isolated somewhere for a certain period of time, etc. So where do we go? Where have we been, Bono? And where do you think we're going?
You know, I cannot help smiling at the use of the word quarantine because I am very familiar with it, considering that I was Commissioner of Immigration and we quarantine people
yes, right.
who come to the Philippines.
Yes.
So I'm not really new to this term. But where do we go from here?
Yeah.
In the first place, I agree that there should be vaccination. I'm almost pasted daily on television programs in the international scene. Al Jazeera, CNN, BBC, Fox, CNBC. And I agree fully with the observations of the experts that we really should be vaccinated. Those people who do not like to be vaccinated, their responsibility is to stay in their house. Because, you know, the problem with us, not only here in the Philippines, but even in the United States of America, they have a misinterpretation of what freedom means. You know? Freedom does not mean free to make your own choices at the expense of the community. That's wrong, absolutely wrong. I've been listening to the Republicans in the United States of America. That's an insane assertion. Because, Rita, the correct example of how freedom should be interpreted in democracy is the story of the Irishman who went to New York for the first time. And there he was waving his arms left and right at Fifth Avenue. And you know what happened? He hit the nose of an American. So the American called his attention. Hey, you don't do that. And the Irishman replied, is this not America? The home of the free? Yes. Your freedom ends where my nose begins. That's the correct concept of freedom, because freedom means responsibility. If you don't like to be injected, that's your free choice. You stay in your house. Do not
Right.
go out into the open and communicate and infect people outside. If you want to stay non-vaccinated, stay in your house. Keep
Right.
viewing television programs, reading books, reciting poems, listening to the famous torch singers in the time of coronavirus. That's what you should do. But if you
Exactly.
want to go out, have yourself vaccinated. That should be the rule. And there are no exceptions.
That's very well
That,
said, Bono, because now there are a lot of people are hesitating. But you could see that because of this new variant, they call it the Delta, the letter D variant, a lot of people are rushing now to have themselves vaccinated. It's a very good point. It's your choice, really. It is not. It is not just saying that you're being compelled, but it's your choice. If you don't want to be vaccinated, stay home. That's exactly what people should do, unless they want to contaminate or be contaminated by others. Okay, so but that is now the vaccination rollout, they say, in cities all over. But do we have the kind of national health program that can really encompass everything that is needed just to be able to stave or to contain or to lessen or somewhere to prevent more contamination?
no, that's one of the problems, because there is no well-defined national plan of how to contain this. According to Dr. Anthony Fauci, one of the consultants of the President of the United States before and now, he's saying that the Delta variant is not the last of the variants. And there may be more variants coming which are more dangerous than the Delta variant. So we here in the Philippines and we in the world should have a plan of action. We should have a plan of action of how to contain this problem. Because we have to live with it. According to Fauci and the CDC in the United States of America, you must live up to the protocols. And your right in a democracy has limits. Every right has a responsibility. That's why, for instance, in Texas now and Florida, the governors are Republicans. Very insane. They don't like to prescribe masks for school children. The superintendents are saying, you are endangering the lives not only of the children, but also the teachers. So they have a rebellion of some sorts there in Texas and Florida, because the governors are playing politics. They're afraid of Donald Trump. Because Trump does not like to obey the protocols that are defined in the United States. Remember, when he was president of the United States, he did also wear a mask. What happened? He got the coronavirus, and he infected several people, not only in his staff, but people who visited the White House. So we must observe our responsibilities. You may have disagreements with governments, but we should look at ourselves. We're a nation, and there is a very beautiful poem, Rita, involving this by John Donne. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent, a part of the main. If a cloud be washed away by the sea, Europe is the less. Just a manner of thine own friends were. Every man's death remains to know for whom the bell tolls. It tolls for
Tolls
thee.
for thee, exactly. That is,
We should remember all
yes,
this.
and that should be repeated quite often.
We
Bono, just
are
for
not
the sake of
island.
those, for the sake of those who are listening and watching us, Bono, we're all over the world. A lot of the reaction we're getting is from all four sectors. That's why we have to greet them according to their time zones. And that's important. You were mentioning the United States of America. Now they're beginning to realize that they have to wear masks. you know,
Yes.
so, and that they have to have social distancing and so forth. In the early times, as you said, when this COVID was just beginning to contaminate people, they were thinking that they could be free, as you said, freedom. So there you realize that, you know, the contamination has spread. But now it's a different thing altogether. We're talking, you said something about having a national health program. I think in the last State of the Nation address of the President, it is about time really that we come up with the creation of an institution or an office for virology, for the manufacturing of vaccines, for all of this. That is now a must, because we see that all the researches on tropical diseases, etc., are not enough. There should really be a concentration. We have a lot of bright minds in the field of medicine. Our scientists are, and all of this, you know, they can get together and really come up far more advanced in many ways if only there is enough support. So that's where it goes.
That's one of the things that I praised in the SONA. I think 10% of my praise has reference to the creation of the Department of Virology.
Yes,
it's about time. There will be more pandemics coming, not just this. Not just this. According to many experts in the world, Germany, France, Britain, there will be more pandemics in the world. So we really should have that department. And there are so many brilliant Filipinos, by God. Brilliance is everywhere in this country, Rita, except that sometimes brilliance is not recognized.
That's very true. We've harped on that so many times that of the 110 million of our population, and say something like 64 million are qualified to vote, so 64 million are also qualified to run for elected offices and all of these positions where they can have power and control over several offices. We do not lack the brilliance of a lot of those coming from different parts of our country. But the problem is we have a system that does not, it does not profit those who are actually qualified. So that's the problem.
I agree with you. As a matter of fact, I've been writing a lot of columns and comments on the different presidential candidates.
Yes.
I'm on my fourth now. Maybe on Thursday, I'll post my fourth part of my series on the supposed candidates for president. But there is something missing here, something missing with all of them, because all of them are traditional politicians. They think in cycles. Nothing will change in this country unless you think outside the box and you examine the system very thoroughly. I intend to come out with a book, Rita, before the filing of the certificates of candidacy.
That's before October.
Yes, my tentative title. I hope I'll have the money to have it printed. My tentative title is New Horizon, New Country. Because when I was governor of Misamis Oriental, the President Marcos had his new society. I also had my new horizon. I believe in a vision of, do you need a leader who has a vision? That's why Marcos and I have also a mutual admiration club. We criticize each other publicly. But when we talk with each other, it's an entirely different situation. No? He praises me, I also praise him on his programs. But in public discussions, we criticize each other, of course. That's a part of the ball game. But he has a vision, and so have I. None of these traditional candidates in this country have presented a vision. There is no vision. There is a platform, by God platform. That's an old hat. Liberal Party, Nacionalista Party, they are all platforms, but they are all the same.
A flat form.
Motherhood statements, we need specifics.
Exactly.
And so far as a plan of action in this country is concerned, and 2022 is around the corner.
Exactly, 11 months to go. Just by way of informing all of those who are listening to us and perhaps seeing you and hearing you for the first time, over the past several years, Bono, I have spoken of many things that were done during the Marcos time. I premised my discussions and my analysis on this and the fact that I was there. I saw it and I knew these personalities professionally and personally. And so there were many aspects and many elements of that particular regime, of that particular era of Ferdinand Marcos and Imelda Romualdez Marcos, which our people do not know, especially those who were overseas. Now, by way of just going back, I have mentioned you in a number of times, Bono, as one of those who were really part of the opposition against Marcos in the political scene at the time. And I also mentioned how during the counting and the canvassing of the votes for the presidency in 1986, you were one of those that was putting the asterisk on canvassing votes that were being questioned. But as you said, you have recognized certain programs and policies, and of course, the vision that Marcos had at the time. So just by way of telling our viewers and our listeners, that's Bono Adaza. He has been in the opposition for the longest time and even up to now, but he recognizes the importance of leadership and has recognized the leadership likewise in the vision of President Ferdinand Marcos. And that, I think, is very important now, not just to bring back what it means to have a vision, but to be able to understand that when we start electing again leaders in different categories and different elected positions, we must remember that that vision is very important. That's exactly what Bono Adaza is emphasizing now. So let's proceed from there, Bono.
Rita, I'd like to mention two things here, just to put Mrs. Marcos and President Marcos in perspective. Mm-hmm. In my last conversation with President Marcos, when he was trying to convince me to join him.
Oh, as Vice President, Bono. Yes, I was there when he was convincing you to be his Vice President for the sub-elections.
These were his words. You know, Paniero, because we are both lawyers now. I said, you should join me for several reasons. First, we both graduated from the UP College of Law. Correct. Second, we dream dreams for our people. Also correct. And third, he said, you are an ideologue, so am I. Also correct. And he paused for a while and he said, and on top of that, we are two of a kind. By gum. That's one of the greatest compliments I got from him. And then with respect to Mrs. Marcos, no, I am saying this now, and I want people to hear it. There are many strong women. In my last column, I have not posted it yet, including you. I mentioned you there as strong and stronger women, quoting St. John. I quoted St. John. And I said, Mrs. Marcos, among all the strong and stronger women in the country today, more than any one of them is deserving to be president. Yes, for several reasons. But back to our conversation. In the book launching of Julad Santos' book, he was publisher of the Reporter. Miss Marcos just came from Hawaii, the exile. I was the last one to arrive, but there was a seat, vacant seat beside him. So I sat beside Miss Marcos and the camera started clicking, because we were on opposite political poles. And this is what Mrs. Marcos whispered to me. Homobono, were it not for your mouth in parliament, we will still be in power today. My only consoling thought is that we are out of power and so are you. So I replied, Mom, that's part of the game and that's the law of life.
Very well said, yes. When just to elaborate for those who perhaps were not there in 86 when there was the canvassing of votes by the Batasang Pambansa. Remember at the time, we already had the parliament and it was called the Batasang Pambansa. The same building where you have members of Congress now located. And Bono was a member of the Batasang Pambansa. He was a member of parliament, a parliamentarian. As a matter of fact, you were called assemblyman. And Bono was in the opposition. And while they were canvassing the vote, this is already canvassed. In other words, tapos na lahat ng resulta all over the regions. Summary na lang ito. every time there was every canvas votes that came in, Bono actually stood beside the speaker. That was Speaker Nicanor Inigas. He was the Speaker of Parliament at the time. And Bono stood beside him and asked the speaker to put an asterisk or a mark on that particular canvas results, which he was questioning. In spite of that, in spite of all the asterisks, there was a summary of all the canvas votes. Marcos won by about a little over a billion votes. That was Bono Adaza at the time. But in time, after 86, and sinasabi nga ni Mrs. Marcos that if it were not for Bono, they would still be in power kasi doon nagsimula lahat ng questioning, etc. and all of that. And you must remember, and this is very important in history, that the dramatization that there was cheating in those elections in 1986 was already done by the public relations firms of America and the media. Early on, they were already saying, magdadaya, magdadaya. You see, they were preparing already because whether we like it or not, the maneuverings of a world power were the ones actually that manipulated for Marcos to be taken out of our country. And this is documented, I've said this 100 times, in the book of George Shultz, Triumph and Turmoil, when he said it was not a matter of getting Marcos out, it was a matter of when. So you can imagine that they already prepared the premises. Anyway, going back to Bono Adaza, he was part of that opposition regarding the canvassing of votes. But nonetheless, even on the testimony also of one of your province mates, Ruben Canoy, he wrote about this extensively. Marcos still won by 1 million votes in that snap elections and would have been our president for the next 6 years at the time. Anyway, so Bono, let's get back in time, but bring it forward now. You spoke of vision. Why is this important in a leader?
It's important in a leader because we should know, we the people and the voters should know, where are we being taken by these people? He might be like the Pied Piper of Hamelin, treating us like the lemmings, and he's bringing us to drown into the sea.
Yeah, but who followed the Pied Piper? The rats.
Yeah, precisely. That's the point. Now, Rita, in this book that I am writing now, New Horizon, New Country, I am painting a vision where we should be going. And I think I'm tempted to really participate in the 2022 elections.
You should.
One way or another.
Yes,
I will
Do.
participate. You know, I admire Marcos because our debate was open but very, very civil. No? Sabi nga ni Maning Pilais, Vice President Pilais, no Cortes, no quita lo valiente. No. Courtesy or civility does not make you any less brilliant. Mm-hmm. No, no less courageous.
You and Marcos are very cerebral. I must, I must admit that. Yes.
Yes. And you know, he was asking me several times to Rakisa, to Secretary of Public Works Rakisa, to join him. First, he wanted me to run with the KBL in the Batasang. Rakisa rushed from Lacanyang, telling me, Bono, the president is waiting for your decision. Run with us. I said, Manong, I'm already in the papers. Mahirap na. They will say that I was bought when I'll join you. You just tell the president, I'm glad that he made the offer. And, Rita, before the snap elections, President Marcos talked to Rakisa, and Rakisa talked to me. He said, the president this morning told me, Tony, how do we solve a problem like Adaza? So Rakisa said, maybe as a politician, said, Mr. President, the man is poor. Yes, he doesn't have a house in Manila. He has only Toyota, and I think he's paying it by installment. So what is the solution? What is the reply of Marcos? Does this, Tony? Are you telling me that he's your friend? Rakisa said, yes, he's not only my friend, I treat him like a son. And then Marcos said, Tony, I'm afraid you do not know the man. My God.
What? What
That's
a
why I remember Marcos very
yes.
fondly, no?
Yeah.
Very fondly, because of these exchanges, no?
Yes.
Exchanges beyond the beyond the ears of other people until now. Until
Exactly.
now.
That is why we reminisce quite often. And in this program, which we have, this Rita Gadi hour, actually, over the past several years, we have been reminiscing. And a lot of people are reacting to this, asking more information. What was it like then? It is exactly why, if we just look at what was done then, if only there were a continuity of many of those programs, then we would not be in this particular situation. For instance, we speak of the health program and all of this. If we had sufficient tertiary hospitals built in the regions, you only need, at the time, we only had 14 regions. Then people would not have to be coming to Manila just for a heart, surgery, etc., or dialysis and so forth. And also many of the things in agriculture, all of this could have been continued if only, as you said, the vision would have also been pursued. Nowadays, as you said, the traditional politicians don't have a vision. They have all of this inside the box statements. Always they speak of the alleviation of poverty. My goodness, Bono, that has been there for 100 years. Poverty is everywhere in the world. Even in the most advanced cities like New York, for instance, or Los Angeles, you have a whole street where you have all of the homeless sleeping there. New York, you see under the bridges, you have the poor people there. Poverty is something that you do not make part of your political platform. Or is it the platform? Not just the platform.
Rita, on this point, no? I was one of the opposition governors who got elected. There were 73 governors, 71 were KBL. There were only two who got elected, Joey Laurel of Batangas and me. As a matter of fact, my wife was telling me I was crazy to run. I said, I believe in the people. I think I will win. And, when I became governor, this is the first thing I said, Rita. Beginning this day, there's not going to be any partisan politics. I am not the governor of my party. I am the governor of the people of Misamis Oriental. Whatever problems you have, I don't care about your affiliation. You can be KBL, you can be Iglesia Ni Cristo, you can be NPA, you can be anything. But if you need anything from the provincial government, the government will be there to help you. I introduced free medical treatment and hospitalization in my province for the poor and the downtrodden. I followed the program of the national government constructing roads up to the tip of the mountains in the rural road program. In the barangay water program of the national government, I constructed about maybe 1,000 shallow and deep wells in my province. There were other mayors who did not like to receive because it came from the national government. I told my classmate, he's dead now, the governor of Palawan, said, Socrates, you give me the things that these people are rejecting. Okay, Bono, I'll give them to you. So your problem is, don't look at me as a member of the opposition. We are both workers for government. I'm implementing the program of the national government in my province, like the reorientation of people. I implement that. I attend. As a matter of fact, I'm the speaker all the time. The moment the end of the reorientation program is done, I implement every program of the national government because they are good. And the leaders of the opposition call my attention. Adaza, why are you going to Malacanang when there is a conference? I said, why should I not go to Malacanang? Marcos is president, Adaza is governor. You should have told me not to run for governor, if that is your view. Because politics is over after the election. And the conversation should be for the interest of everybody. And it should be civil, no? Instead of shouting at each other.
When you talk about those times, Bono, really, it's so nostalgic. Baliktad na lahat since then. when they
Talaga.
speak, yeah, when they speak in the entablados, like for instance, the way it was before in the campaigns, they all talk about helping the poor, helping alleviate, etc., and all of that. After elections, baliktad na. It's all
Yun
for
na.
them. It becomes personal for them. Now, we have a different situation today. 1 year, this pandemic has brought the attention of people in a different way. Nakalimutan muna kung ano yung politics. Ang inaabangan is saan makakakuha ng tulong, itong mga ayuda, saan makakakuha ng gamot, paano pupunta ng ospital, etc. So for a while, at least for almost 2 years, now a year and several months, parang na-shelve ang political partisanship, etc. But if you look at it now, by October, magfa-file na ng certificates of candidacy. So yan na naman, the same. Yeah. And they will come out again with all sorts of these statements of how to help the people, etc., and all of that. But it has to be a different complexion now because we are already facing a different future. Unang-una, Bono, hindi na pwede yung kampanya na may mga stage, na may mga magsasayaw, kakanta, it's all of that. It's all exactly what we're doing now. Yeah, they will talk to the people through this. Virtual presences. Wala na yung mga touching, mga kakarga ng mga baby, mga embracing the old women, etc., and all of that. But regardless of that, Bono, what kind of a profile of the politician should we look at now that these things have to be considered outside of the normal traditional politics? Imagine, 300 of them, lalagay na naman natin sa Kongreso. Ilan sila? 12 na naman sa Senado. And then of course, all the way sa 1,500 mayors, how many? 88 governors in mga probinsya. And then all of this, all the way up to the president, vice president. Ano ba yan?
Rita, my vision of the Philippines in respect to the government, I am for the parliamentary and federal system.
Exactly. We've worked on this.
Federal, in accordance to the regions that were conceived during the time President Marcos, because that's well studied. The regions are gerrymandering to satisfy certain political needs. That's out. Second, parliamentary system. Instead of having 300 people legislating, my proposal is only 39.
Where are the 39 coming from?
Regional or state. There are 13 regions, 3 members of parliament, that's 39.
We now have something like 15 or 18 regions, Bono.
No, but we'll back to the Marcos region.
Okay, back to the Marcos regions.
My proposal is erase this 5 other regions. Politically conceived.
Yes.
And then these people, members of parliament, they will be talking about vision. Because the parliamentary system is not popularity conceived. You are being asked, what's your program? What's your national program? Are you going to continue with the capital free enterprise economy or a welfare state? Are you in favor of a welfare state or not? Are you in favor of nationalizing water, energy? These are questions that should be raised now because, we are a country still developing. And even America has problems now because of Trump. He front the problems of America. Now they realize that they have problems. Racism. And then fanaticism. The Republican Party, there are few Republicans who are using the reds. Fortunately, 2 of them are women. Cindy McCain, the widow of beautiful statement, the widow of Senator McCain from Arizona. And the other one is Elizabeth Coney, the daughter of former Vice President Coney. By God, the way they say things, and denouncing the nature of the action of Trump and their party mates. These are the type of leaders we need who think, not just feel. think and feel. Think for the people, feel for the people. Think for the country, feel for the country. Think of God and feel for God. Because my concept all the time of governance is God, country, and people.
Exactly.
Very important institution.
The triumph, the trinity of our beliefs anyway. But Bono, you know, I like the term that you use, a new horizon. When you
Yes.
speak, I can understand why you speak of a horizon, because you come from an island province, and
Correct.
when you look out of your window, there is nothing else that could distract you from looking at the sky and the sea. It's just one straight line. That is how clear a vision should be, the horizon, precisely. And that is
Yes.
where you have either the sunrise or the sunset. So
Right.
say, yeah, a new horizon exactly is what we need. You know, it's like asking those who are listening to us, open your windows, look out, and see if you can have a horizon which is not blurry, which is not it does not distract your vision with so many buildings and other things that will distract you from that one straight horizontal line, the sky and the sea. That is all actually that is needed for you to look at. Do we really have enough of these people who can look at our country with such a vision as clear as looking at the horizon, so that they do not get distracted by their own egos and themselves and their family names? I'm speaking here of dynasties, you know, and everything else that's attached to them, and just bear themselves, simplify what they have for the people just by looking at that horizon that you're speaking of. Do we have enough of these people for this coming elections?
Yeah.
Or are we still going to be burdened by all of this, names that have been there from the beginning of our political life? My goodness.
That's why I want to participate in the active political debate for
You
2020.
should, yes.
In my column in in Facebook, it's Diliman Way. Remember in your
Yes, that's
paper?
exactly why I
It's
said
also Diliman
you
Way.
should start talking, because people hardly ever read, Bono. Kaya kailangan pag-usapan. Your column should be discussed now. Yes.
You'll be surprised, Rita, because out of about 60 to 120 who react to my column,
Very
and
good.
who comment in the United States, in even in the Middle East, they are beginning to feel that what I'm saying is right. No?
Well, now
So
they're
I
listening
want
to
to
you.
participate in the open debate.
Yeah.
Let's be civil in our debate. Give us ideas that can change the world, that can change the lives of Filipinos. I don't like, every time I get out of my house and I go to my office, I see people living in squalid conditions. That should not be the country that we should live in. Democratic and religious country. Why do we allow people to live in that condition? It's our fault. We don't do anything about it. That's why I admire Marcos. I was the one who sponsored the impeachment proceedings against President Marcos. It was debated on the floor of the parliament. But we were always civil to each other. There should be some civility in our relationship, because we are living in this world and our time is limited. How I wish I'd be Methuselah.
You are, actually. we have banded ourselves to be so much older than our actual ages.
But my feet are brought back to earth when I say early morning sunrise. Because the mist in the early morning sunrise also disappears in the world. That's how mortal we all are.
Yes, but it's good if you just greet the mornings. I have always avoided walking into the sunset.
Yeah.
or moving. Yeah.
I always look at the sunrise. I always look at the sunrise in the place where I live. I always look at the sunrise, whether it's Camiguin, Misamis Oriental, or Quezon City. I always look at the sunrise, and in the evening at the stars. And the stars.
Yes. But that is the way life should be. We are in the midst of this unexplainable pandemic as of now, even though we have a vaccine. You know, the vaccine is not to cure or to quell this virus. It merely gives us some kind of an immune system that can help us stave it. Viruses, as the doctors say, are not really curable. Bacteria, you have antibiotics. But for viruses, they will just expend themselves if they do not have a client. Again, I have to go back. I have to keep on repeating this, Mono. The virus just has to move from one person to another. Otherwise, pag wala na siyang malilipatan, mamamatay na siya on its own. It will just die by itself. So that is where, again, the wearing of the mask is so important. Distancing yourself when you're out there in public from another person, that is also very important. And then, of course, the protocols of health. You wash your hands, wash your face, and then look at the food that you're eating so that what you're taking in, what you're ingesting, will help your immune system. That is all that's important. Sabi nga, lahat yung mga ospital na yan, hindi kailangan yan andyan kung tayo mismo will behave according to how we should be. That's the only way to kill that virus. Wag natin ipakalat. Tayo nagkakalat niyan eh. We go to another person, meron siya, magkakahawahan. Malilipat na naman yung virus na yan. That's all there is. That's how simple it is. A simple, long-lasting solution. It's not the hospital, the oxygen, the ventilator, the ICU. It's you anyway. I repeat this, Bono, because you know, America seems to have shown us the way, and several other countries, alisin na yung mga masks. Now they're back to it. Now we have this, now we have this lockdown. Follow now all of this, requirements needed. The lockdown is something which really affects us economically. I do not want to have a debate with the so-called economic geniuses of our country. But then again, we have to proceed in another way, out of the box, as you said, Bono. 1.5 years we've been doing this, pero andyan dumadami pa. Why? Because it is the behavior of the people that is important. You speak of the people, Bono, 64 million will be voting. Hindi naman lahat yan. Let's say 50 million out of the 64 registered voters. Yan ang mahalaga. Yung inyong pipiliin, sino ba yung mga tao na yan? Para din pandemic yan eh. Kumakalat sila eh. Dumadami sila. One host multiplies itself. Can you have one family with one family name in one place? 6 of them with one family name. My goodness, ano ba yan? Hindi ba pandemic na rin?
You know, Rita,
pandemic.
I really pray that I call him the X factor. The X factor of the game will have the means to mount an effective campaign. Because this candidate of mine, I'm looking at 2 people, one in his early 40s and one not so early 40s.
Mystery men, okay. The mystery men of Bono Adaza.
If both of them, or if one of them will be able to have the means from the correct sources, there will be a candidate that will present a vision outside the box, the new horizon, yes. And then the people will have a chance to make a choice whether they are only interested in the motherhood statements or the specifics of the things. In all fields, education, justice, all fields, agriculture, monetary policy, foreign policy, yes. Down to the specifics, Rita. And I'd like this candidate of mine to participate in the debate.
Okay, that is we have to look forward to that. Perhaps before the filing of the certificates of candidacy in October, we can have a long discussion on this, Bono, and you can reveal the names.
Yes, I will.
So that our
Maybe
people,
one
our voters,
before the filing, Rita.
even before the filing, yes. We will have time enough for that. But now at this particular stage, while we are confronting a virus and we are reminding you constantly and repeatedly and really pounding it, how important it is to follow the health protocols. That is all that is needed. Yun lang ang kailangan para matigil yung virus na yan. Hindi yung mga ospital na nagdadagdag ng mga kama, ng mga oxygen tanks, ang lahat na yan. Bawat isa sa atin. Anyway, going back to the political scenario, and especially for those who are listening to us overseas, mahalaga na makinig kayo, tumutok kayo dito because Bono has the experience of history. He has been there from the beginning of our political life in many ways. He has hobnobbed with the president and all of these politicians. I was fortunate to have been in the 20 years of one of the best presidents we ever had. That's Ferdinand Marcos and our First Lady, Imelda Romualdez Marcos. And I've shared with you many of these incidents and many of what has happened then over the past years in this program. We will continue to do so because that's exactly what Bono Adaza is saying. A vision is most important. Bono, before we close,
Rita,
yes.
Moment. My first of 12 books, one distributed internationally by Amazon and another provider, BarnesandNobles.com, is entitled "Leaders from Marcos to Arroyo."
Oh, very well. You have the summary of all of these presidents. Yes.
Yeah, leaders from Marcos to Arroyo, and then some friends of mine, Bono, why is your assessment of Marcos different? No, it's not different. My assessment of Marcos has never changed. We only have certain disagreements. We have only certain disagreements. I want to put that down in black and white so that history will remember him and will remember me. And that the conversation was civil, very civil, and that we had certain points of agreement. That's why I decided to write The New Horizons because of the new society and then Kennedy's New Frontier, New Deal by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and New Freedom by Woodrow Wilson.
Exactly. Very well. So you're following the continuity of history. Bono, before we close, I'd like to open our chat box. We have several reactions coming in. So we have this from, well, let me go over them as best as I could. Ang dami, Bono, nag-react na. Dito po sa atin, uhaw na uhaw po sa kalayaan. Second variant po, ang pangalan ay Epsilon. What is Epsilon? Good afternoon, Katipunan Idol. Homobono, Adaza. Homobono, I don't agree with some of your statements, like the pandemic COVID issue, but you need to stop watching mainstream media. So, hindi na niniwala ito sa mga vaccines. Good afternoon to all of you. Vicky Sierra McAllister, no mask, no vaccine, no passport, no lockdown, that's freedom. Mark Santos, good afternoon, KDP, watching from Nueva Ecija. Glenn Resurrection, good afternoon, Sir Bono Adaza and Ma'am Gadi, stay safe always, God bless, mabuhay kayo. May Aguinaldo, good PM po sa inyo. Yes po, we need a leader with a vision and a plan, and that goes beyond a test of time. So it's mabuhay to you, Bono Adaza. Maria Villanueva, correct, sir, leader, correct. Sir, leader is the one setting the direction of the country. Correct, si Bono Adaza. Zenea Arcilia, good afternoon, Ma'am Rita and Sir Homobono Adaza. My goodness, your name is spelled out in capital letters. All in capital. Ikaw lang, naka-capital letters. Listening here from Hong Kong. Yes po, Sir Adaza, marami pang viruses ang darating at marami din mga brilliant na scientists natin like, who is this? Dr. Jose Octarit. Okay. Jean Cavendish, ang sarap gulpihin si Duterte para magising. Delphine Estigoy, Senior. Good afternoon sa lahat ng nakikinig ngayon dito sa KDP channel. Angeline Lissing, good evening, Ma'am Rita Gadi. Why is it, Bono? Every time they mention your name, it's my goodness, in all caps, all capitalized.
Thanks
Listening,
very much to them. No, thank you.
listening from Hong Kong. God bless you. Mojin Clarito, it says Clarito Jeffers. Bono Adaza's opening your eyes for research. John Saini Cyril Onato. Good afternoon, Ma'am Rita, and your guest interview, Sir Homobono Adaza and people here. God bless you always. Watching from Capiz. Dennis Thompson, para sa akin po, di bali po, malugmok tayo sa kahirapan, wag lang maging sunod-sunuran sa mga globalist at sa mga big pharma bankers at sa mga elite. Yan, galit na sa mga oligarchs. Romeo Abad, good thing Rita Gadi is back in broadcasting. She was one of the witnesses of the golden years of Marcos. And so was Bono Adaza, my dear. So marami pa, Bono, and these are some of the reactions we're getting. I told you that on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, and all of this social networking, you are seen, you are heard. So that means...
Thanks a lot to you, Rita.
Yes.
Thank you, and God bless you always.
Yes, thank you very much. And also for the benefit of our viewers, there are times when Bono and I just simply recite poetry. He writes poetry too. So one of these days we'll be having that as a break from all of this political quagmire anyway. So thank you very much, all of you, for having joined us. This is Rita Gadi, and this has been your hour. Thank you, Bono Adaza.
Thank you too, Rita. God bless.